Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Hey, if you're not able to watch the entire episode, I hope you do. But if you can't, just know episodes come out every Tuesday and Thursday as an audio podcast. You can check them out at bizbookpublishinghub.com. You'll find lots of other resources. Without any further delay, I'd love to introduce this week's panel. When you start writing, it can be easy to get hung up on making every word perfect. But here's the secret. The real magic happens through the process of revision. Your first draft is just that, a starting point, not the finished product. Embracing imperfection means giving yourself permission to create, to experiment, to even just make mistakes. It's the challenges and edits along the way that will shape not just your book, but your growth as a writer. Every step is progress, even when it feels messy. I can introduce you to our hub partners. These Biz Book Publishing Hub partners will help you overcome all of those writing challenges and marketing challenges and much more. You can check out this free resource at bizbookpublishinghub.com. Now, a quick word from our sponsor before today's panel discussion. Today, we're going to hear from authors about their journey from blank page to published book. We have Irma Parone, who wrote WINX for Employees, the problem-solving model to unlock workplace success. Inside this guide, written specifically for employees, is a proven 8-step decision-making model you can apply to nearly any workplace situation. Judi Lawrence is the author of Apostille Agents Survival Guide, a not-so-secret reference handbook to international document services, which shares how to add this critical service to your list of services or as a brand new venture. Penny Zenker wrote The Reset Mindset, Get Unstuck, Focus on what matters most, and reach your goals faster, which is a proven method not only that ensures that you never get stuck again, but can also unlock new levels of performance personally and collectively. Please join me in welcoming Irma, Judi, and Penny. Irma, I'm going to come over to you to ask you a little bit more about the kind of audience you had in mind when you were writing your book. And welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. My audience for this book is employees and employers who want to help their employees. So it's written really for the employee to succeed in the workplace and to problem solve in the workplace.
That's great. Is there a particular sector that you've gotten a lot of traction, who's been attracted to your book?
More on the service industry, people who provide services and can really have opportunities to get in front of customers and excel in the workplace.
Excellent. And Judi, I'm going to come over to you, and I have a feeling your book is really niche. So tell me a little bit about who you have in mind for it.
It was written for a notary, but it is a resource guide. So it is the guide that they can have with them all the time to answer a question. The apostille world is a world of many variables. It's not just a world where it's black and white. It's many, many variables, many countries, many different things. So this was written for the person who needs answers and can look them up. And a lot of people tell me they have two: one they keep on the shelf and one they mark up,
or throw in their car, or have it with them everywhere they go. Yeah, I can totally see that. I wrote a resource book as well, so I'll have to ask you a few questions about that experience.
Okay.
But first, let me come over to Penny. Penny, let me hear a little bit about the ideal client or the ideal reader you had in mind for this book.
So I guess this is one of those books that goes across and can be valuable for different people in different positions, whether it's leaders or a parent or even just that individual self-development. But really, especially for today, for anybody that's having challenges navigating change, challenge, or uncertainty, since we're full of it, right? It's a real problem today. We're constantly distracted. And so, as I think the title says it best, is the subtitle is How to Get Unstuck. So anybody who feels stuck wants to refocus on what matters most, and people who want to really unlock their potential and creativity and maximize their potential.
Well, similar to Irma, I'm curious if there's a particular sector or community of people that you have found really resonated with this. Is it more creative types? Is it, data scientists? Has it really been across the board for you?
Well, I don't know too many data scientists, but But leaders are finding this to be incredibly valuable, just to have an accessible language, and they find that it's what I just heard from somebody today. It's less judgy, so it's very accessible, and it's a faster way to get the result that they're looking for, to a faster way to make that reset, and it's just easy and fast, and that was what it was intended, was to just be really easy and accessible.
So this is your second book, and I'm curious, I want to take you back to your first book when you're first getting started writing, and I'm going to ask all of you a question about this. So Penny, you're thinking about that time period. I mean, think about how much you've learned since then. So when you first start this process, there's a lot we don't know. We don't even know what questions to ask. We don't know what possibilities are in front of us, what doors might open. When you were first getting started, what was important to you back then when you thought about, if my book does X, I'll know it was a success? Was it just getting the book published? Were there other metrics you were going to be measuring as you were getting started in this writing process? And then I'll tack on later, like, tell me more about how it's changed. But let's first go where your mindset was back then.
Sure. So for me, it was to kick off my speaker career. And so I wanted to be seen, as the expert in my space. So it was called The Productivity Zone, Stop the Tug of War with Time. And for me, it was Amazon bestseller. I said, if I can get Amazon bestseller, it's telling me that I'm attracting a decent number of people, that they're seeing me. And then the second measure is that personal measure, is what are people telling me that they're taking away? Like, very important to me that it's having an impact. And so even if it's just a few people, that to me, tells me that it made a difference.
I love that. And, I think a lot of first-time authors do focus on that bestseller, #1 bestseller status, the orange ribbon. It's very coveted. I understand that. I hit #1 30 times across 3 books in 4 countries. But you start to realize as you get into it that it doesn't really change your bank account. So as you became an author and lived that experience and then went on and wrote your second book, what changed about your approach to your second book? Did you focus more on reviews? Did you focus more on the conversion from, reader to prospect? Like, what shifted?
Well, my book just launched 2 months ago. So, we're still, I actually exceeded Amazon bestseller and got USA Today bestseller and Success Magazine top 10. So yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess, I did set the level higher in that context. So that was still important to me, because this is a business tool for me as much as a labor of love. And weirdly enough, my first book was easier to write. I think the expectations on myself were different. And when you have so much knowledge and you also want to know so much more about things, I think that took me longer and the book started as one thing and then ended up as something else. So I had a clearer plan in the first book. So
awesome. This is always so interesting to me about how people evolve on their author journey. Judi, you've written multiple books. Why this book? And also knowing the book will probably have to be updated because things keep changing. Tell me how you're approaching that piece. But it sounds like you saw this as a resource that was missing in the world. Tell me how you decided.
I did, but my goals were not as clear as they are today. So I wrote a book. I was very excited, and talk about Penny. It was a labor of love, and sometimes my shoulders hurt because I typed for so many hours, and it was truly a labor of love, and I loved the book. The book I published recently with Bill, which is our newest book, and it's amazing. But it was written with a whole different set of goals. It was written to help people. So was the first one, but just different. It was written more to help people. It was written more to and what you said, Penny. Piggyback on what you said. To help advance my speaking career. Because when you write books like that and people love them, you are able to say, well, I want a better speaking career, which is really what I would like to do. So
You
it
know, so
was
you just mentioned, I wanted to just mention your shout out to Bill Soroka. Bill Soroka is a 6-time author. He has really figured this process out and does really well with all of his books. So great to partner with.
So can I tell you that, because I like a little bit of humor in everything, the other book, the first book, we had about 3 drafts. Our book, Bill's and mine, we had 11. And if you know Bill, then you know.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
We had 11 drafts, and we could still have drafts if we didn't really want to get it done. And but they both are labors of love. But as you grow, your goals change, and you yourself change, and so I think that that's just part of the evolution of your career.
We're going to talk again in a little bit about how books fit in with the speaking profession.
Mm-hmm.
But first, Irma, I wanted to hear your thoughts because you've had 2 books and they are companion books. So tell us a little bit about that thought process about, who did you first think to write for, and then you realized maybe the other audience, or did you from the start think I have this huge book, I should split it in half? Like there's a lot going on, and people market their books in different ways, but yours are now two titles that really work well together.
Right. So the first one is also WINX, but that is for business owners and decision makers. So it's an 8-step problem solving model to win with customers, employees, and your bottom line. So what I see people do is work with leadership all the time, but they forget to take it down to the employee level. So my second book is still the same model with a little revision toward the end, but it gives the first few steps so that they're working in sync with the leadership team, so that they're one team in the same direction, moving, in a powerful force, so that they can all work out problems together. So the second book is really a problem-solving model for employees that mirrors part of the first book, which is a problem-solving model for the decision makers. So the second one even helps them provide proposals to leaders to make decisions and hear their input.
And how did your metrics of success evolve from when you started that first book to now, as far as what you're paying attention to and tracking?
Well, my first book, I was just so happy to get the freaking thing done. It took me forever because I kept having to narrow it, and I finally came to problem solving. So my first book, I just wanted to get in employers' hands, also get on the stage and really help employers work with their employees to really win and grow together. I didn't have numbers. I didn't care if it was best-selling as long as it was impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Second book, and I didn't really even think about marketing, which is not very smart. Never claimed to be the smartest person in the room. But that just wasn't big on my target list. But I did want to speak and bring my book out and really help people. So the second book changed a little bit because I met people like you who are fabulous at helping people market. And so I'm learning more about the marketing side of the business. I just want to write and speak.
That's great.
Yeah.
And they really do go so hand in hand in a lot of ways. I want to just take a few minutes to talk about reviews. I see reviews as social proof on your book sales page on Amazon. And when people are deciding whether to buy and read your book, or to refer you, or to book you to speak, it's just another touch point where you get to influence that decision by having other people say, yes, you should do all those things. This is a worthwhile person to know and a great book to read. And I have found a lot of people, none of you, good thing to say, none of you, but a lot of people just hit publish and don't really think about it at all. And you can tell because they have 7 ratings and 3 reviews. And I'm not even joking. That literally is the thing I saw last week. And the 7 ratings, by the way, are the stars. So you can leave 1 through 5 stars without buying the book and without writing anything review-wise. And the written review is the piece that I think matters so much. Mm-hmm. And there are some studies that say that more than 90% of buyers look at reviews before making a purchase. And I think we all would agree with that. Mm-hmm. Now, less than 10% of us, probably way less than 10% of us regularly write reviews. So a small number of people have an outsized influence on the success that your book has, which is why I'm like, let's get these reviews. And I really work with authors to get 50 or more. So I want to actually go over to Penny, because Penny, you and I had a couple of conversations. You were doing this whole launch process. You did a couple of things pretty unique, and I want to talk through that, but also your results are really awesome. You have 60 ratings and 58 written reviews. And the things that are notable about that is the ratio is really high between ratings and reviews, which means something to me, because it's a lot easier to get people to leave stars than it is to leave reviews. And I have seen people with a real split there, sometimes like 250 ratings and less than 10 written reviews, and they walk around saying they have 200 plus reviews. I'm like, no, you don't. Okay. And you're an international best-selling author. That's great. Okay. Let's talk to someone else now. But you had a lot of people take pictures of your book. So that's, when you're looking at that page, it pops up, and that's kind of fun. It shows a level of engagement that people had and enthusiasm. So how did you approach this? Is this different from what you did for your first book? Why were reviews so important to you? And how did you get them to write them? It's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
I know. We had a long conversation about it. And, it's a lot of work, as you know. So you have to probe people for reviews. And I think I think it's like dominoes too, is as people start reading it and see that there's reviews, then it gives them permission to write a review. Because I think what holds people back is they're afraid that they're not going to say the right thing, or people are going to think what they said is silly. And unfortunately, the people who often want to write the reviews are also people that it might be harsh too, right? Like, so you got to, hopefully, I had somebody on book on one of the other book platforms that anyway. So what I did was I simply asked people. So I had a launch team. I could have done more with that, but I made sure that they knew that reviews were important. Reviews were not important for my first book. It was something that I saw later, that Amazon likes you more when you have reviews. So I want Amazon to like me and show me to as many people as possible. So I asked people whether they would take a picture, because I also wanted to create a collage with everybody and their picture of the book, right? So I said, please, send me a picture included in your post and things like that. And some people had done that before I actually did it, and that gave me the idea, right? So I asked for people what I wanted. And I also found that there's a direct link that you can give people that will bring them directly to your book's review. And it takes 1 or 2 steps out. And of course, we're lazy. So as easy as we can make it for people, the better. So I give them that direct link. And what else did I do? What did you find that I did was unique?
I'm curious, did you lower your Kindle book price as part of that process, or did you skip that step and just have them buy the book? Okay.
No, I just had them buy the book. So I had a different goal. So I was set out to be a New York Times bestseller, which I fell short. Yeah, but I did sell 10,000 plus books.
Amazing. Actually, Penny, let me put that in context for people who are listening, because that is really, really astounding results. And kudos for getting, you didn't win one, but you got on the other one.
But I got a lot of other great things.
Yeah. So the average number of sales in the lifetime of a book is 250. The average number of first-time authors sell 100 books in the first year. That means many don't. Right. Many do not sell more than a dozen to their family. Selling 5,000 copies in the first year is an extremely good result. So to hit 10,000 and to be in the running for a New York Times bestseller, some of these are really, it's about numbers, and those are all more reputable. I would say, like, I feel differently about New York Times bestseller than Amazon bestseller, because you could sell 12 books, maybe 18 or 20 books, depending on the category, and hit number 1 in a category, which, these are not even apples, and they're not even fruits we're comparing. It's just totally different. So that's incredible. And so did you do pre-sales then as part of your process?
I did pre-sales, because pre-sales all count to your launch.
Yeah, your first day.
They'll all
week. Is it the first week that they're focusing on?
That would be, when you're focused on the first week. So anything in pre-launch will be counted in your first week. It's when it's delivered. And the reason I mentioned why that matters is because when you have multiple versions of your book out there, so the audio and the ebook, they compete against each other. So the reason I did not bring out an audio or an ebook is because I wanted everyone to buy the book, and I gave if they went to my website, they'd see that I actually gave them all the copies. I gave them the audio and the ebook as as a gift for buying the hard copy. So if they prefer looking at it on their Kindle, no problem. They want to listen to it, no problem.
But you have to sell on that version in order to calculate your sales on that version. Yeah.
Correct.
So I do a similar thing, but in reverse, because I'm generally working with people who do not aim to sell 10,000 copies. And so for me, I usually have them bring the Kindle book out first and delay the paperback until the actual launch day. So during the pre-launch for those 2.5, 3 weeks, the launch team is buying the Kindle book at a discounted rate. And that again is focusing sales there. And then when it goes when it's like publicly launched, then we'll add the other version. And then I usually tell them not to worry about the audiobook for a little while because they're overwhelmed. And I'm like, that's just another chance to do a launch. It's okay. You can do that in a month.
Yes.
It's fine. But just the same idea, like if you have, if it matters to you, this is sort of a like academic point, but if you have a chance to get into the world of New York Times and all of those, then there are people who will help guide you through the best practices. And for me, it was really about filling the launch and getting the reviews. And you manage. I mean, I watched it from afar. I participated. I did my part. But I really appreciated the rollout of that. And Judi, I'm going to give you some kudos here as well, because the one book we're looking at here that you did, the Apostasy Agents Survival Guide, you have 252 ratings and 98 written reviews. 98 written reviews. Okay, so whoever's listening, if you're thinking about a little side hustle, you want to learn about this skill that you could get, maybe we can get 2 more for you, 2 more written reviews. But that's really cool that you have so many written reviews. So what was your process and why were reviews important to you?
We asked for the reviews, the similar fashion. We asked for them, actually begged for them, because you have to beg for them. And you really, it's amazing how people say, oh, yes, of course. Oh, I'm going to do that right away. And they don't. So then you really have to be persistent and say, I need a review because look how hard I worked on this book. And, I have a little bit different of a situation because I also teach a course. And looking back, and of course, I have no complaints, none whatsoever. I don't want to say that on tape. But sometimes people think that they can buy the book and they don't have to take the course. Because a lot of times people think, well, I'll just buy the book and then I'll figure it out myself. So I think if I were to do it, and I will do it again, I'm going to write another book. And I think that I'd like what you said again, and that is, pay for the book, buy the book, and then I can give you the Kindle and I can give you the audio. But I think that doesn't strengthen your sales. And again, I teach a course, and so they interrupt each other. And if you sell a whole lot of books, they may not buy a whole lot of courses.
Well, and it could work in your favor, though, because often what a book is doing is helping a prospective buyer know and learn more about the problem.
This is true.
They become aware of it, and then they become aware that your solution's better. So, if I were to read your book, and I know nothing about notary other than the events that you've seen me run. So if I were to sit there and read this book, I would actually be like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I need that course. Right.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So it also helps bring people in. And it's not usually about the individual sales. It's about getting people into I want to talk about that in a moment, but like, how do we bring people in? But first, Irma, I just want to say you did a great job. Anything over 20 reviews tells me you made an effort, but you have exactly 28 reviews and exactly 28 ratings. That's amazing. There's something really powerful about the fact that, sort of Judy's point, people say, yeah. And then they like just go in and they like hit the 5 stars and they don't like leave anything. But that polite persistence that Judi was talking about, how did you approach it? How did you realize reviews are important? And did you do something differently from book 2 to book 1? Like what changed? Or
Yeah. So my first book, I have 150 reviews. I think almost all of my ratings have reviews, except for 1 or 2. And I begged. I mean, just like Judi said, sometimes you just got to go out there. They don't realize how important it is. So I didn't push as hard for the second book. I'm glad that I have what I have, but I need to go back and start working it. I love what Penny said. I'm going to steal that idea and ask people to take a picture with the book.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that idea. And maybe they'll feel more encouraged to put it out there because their picture will be out there. But I really did not work as hard on this book yet. It's just a couple months old. So,
but you still did more than all the people who just hit publish. So your first book has 144 ratings and 130 reviews. So clearly that one, you had a real structure in place. And I also want to say that I have a friend who's an author who was part of the Kindle cross promotion, which is how we all know each other. Right. And as I was doing these panel discussions and I would look at people's reviews, his picture kept popping up because last July he bought 16 fellow authors' books, and he wrote reviews for all of them, really nice long ones too. And then he took his phone with the Kindle version and he held it up and he's got a picture taken, a selfie of him holding his book. And so it just kept popping up, and I finally went and took a screenshot of all the books he wrote reviews for. So lately I have been doing this, and the way I do it is, and just because, not everyone has your hardcover, but I just turn the Zoom screen so that it's not mirroring, and then I just put me on camera, and I set my little crop up, and I get my phone just angled perfectly, and then I take the picture, and then that saves as a screenshot, and I upload that. So that's my new thing, and it there is a little pop, something draws attention to your review, and if your review is a solid one, it'll actually help the author a lot. So I love the idea of being fun and creative.
I didn't understand how you switched it so that it wasn't reading backwards.
Yeah, so on in Zoom in the video settings, there's an option to turn off mirroring.
Turn off mirroring. Okay.
Yeah, but then turn it back on again, or else you don't know which side the little piece of hair is stuck.
Yeah.
Very confused.
Robbie, can I interrupt and say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
I just came to my attention accidentally that some people don't write reviews because they're afraid of leaving a digital footprint. This was just told to me by a client who said, my book was the best, my course was the best, everything was the best. And I said, okay, well, since that's the case, how about if you write me, I always say a 10-star review, and they say, well, you can only give 5. And I say, well, I want 10. And that's a joke, we laugh. And she came back in and she said, I just don't want to make a promise that I can't keep. I will not write a review. I am very much against leaving a digital footprint. So, sometimes we don't know why they don't write a review.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they could think it's the greatest book in the whole world, but
yeah, let me give an answer for how you could approach that. So there's a way to approach that. Have you ever noticed that in your reviews, sometimes it just says Amazon customer, or it has like Fluffy Bunny 22 or something really random? Right. That's people who have anonymized. You can anonymize or just change you can edit the review name.
Right.
So my review name actually says both me and my wife's name because we both leave reviews, and it gets confusing if it's just me or just her, because then the other person doesn't. People are like, who's this person leaving a review for me? So we had to go in and fix that. But like, if someone really didn't want to publicly leave a trail, there is still a way for them to leave you some praise with some anonymous ways of doing it. They still, obviously, buying the book and having a verified review matters as part of that. But Penny, it sounds like you might have something you'd like to add to all this.
Yeah, not just that, but let's say somebody doesn't want to take with their picture. So what I also ask people to do, because a lot of people underline or highlight in their book or online. So I'll ask them, I'd really love to see what resonated with you. Send me a page with a note that you took or a highlight, and then you can post those, right? That they don't have to put their face or their picture. So that's something for people who are uncomfortable and say, I don't want to have my picture there.
Before I saw this idea of taking a selfie of me with a Kindle book, because I generally do Kindle or audio, what I was doing was bringing up the Kindle book on my computer, finding that section and taking a screenshot, and then taking the little tool to circle something. So it was a few steps, but it got me a nice result as something to like be like, this is really important, whether I did it on social or in a review. But it also shows that I actually interacted with the book. It gives a little more credibility to it. So just so everyone understands who's listening, reviews don't actually have any impact on whether you're hitting #1 bestseller status, because #1 bestseller status or #1 new release is based on the number of books, like the number of units sold in that time period. But the reviews definitely have some sort of impact on the algorithm as far as how much juice Amazon will boost your book when it's deciding who to put where. The books that I have had somewhere between 83 and 100 reviews. I don't know, it shifts a little bit. I've had my book sent to people as a standalone email, like, you might want to buy this book. I've had my book stay the top 3 in each category, not as a new release, but just as like a highlighted book. There's a lot of really little things you can't pay for that will happen. And your book may even be higher in the search results based on that. So we don't know exactly how it's all working, but getting those 50 or more reviews seems to make a difference. And I would really aim, if possible, for even more. And getting reviews from likely prospects and referral partners also is part of the process here. Speaking of marketing and strategy, though, I'm really curious if any of you have a particular strategy that you used, giving it a wave if you do, that led to lots of book sales. I know that it's not all about individual book sales, but sometimes we do something that leads to a spike in book sales, or even giving away your book really effectively, marketing your book in some way that got it into lots of people's hands. So bulk orders of books. A lot of you talked about speaking as being part of your goals. So Judi, do you have any thoughts about this, about how you may have used your book?
I have been very successful in, I do a lot of conferences, and I've been very successful in selling my books at conferences. Sometimes I even give them away. It depends upon what conference it is. I went to a conference out west, actually, and I gave my book to everyone that was there, and that was because there were about 35 secretaries of state there. So I knew that somehow or other that book was going home with every secretary of state, and maybe that got me sales, maybe it didn't. I don't know. It's too soon to know yet. I also think that if it goes in the direction I would like it to go in, I would like to do some speaker training. I don't know what you call it. I would like to be able to go to a company and say, I'll teach your people how to do this. Here are my books. And everybody has to have a book that comes to the course. So that's where I am hoping to take this.
I do know people, Judi, who actually just build the cost of the book into their overall price of their course. So it's just like materials fee, I guess you might call it if you were a student. Penny, Irma, either of you have a thought about how to spike sales? Anything that you've done that's worked? Penny, it sounds like maybe.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I use speaking as well, as an opportunity, because you have a larger audience in front of you, whether, you get the organizer to buy a book, or you give a giveaway at the end, or you're talking about the book. So therefore you give a QR code where they can go and get it. I use very often I'll give away the ebook of it to leaders in an organization, right? Understanding that perhaps they'd like their whole, with the effort of, hey, your leadership team can really gain a lot by having a common language and being able to integrate this into your culture. And, and so I've seen some success with that, where people said, yeah, great, I'll have a look at it. And then they came back to me and said, yeah, we'd like to have, have this. Book clubs are also a great way. I did some outreach to book clubs to see if that was something that, they could include in that. I can tell you also what doesn't work, what I found out from my first book and what I've heard from some PR people who were really open for me, and it's not what people think. So people think if you get on TV and you're on the morning show or something like that, that you're going to sell thousands of books. Well, for my first book, I got on the NBC News because I had presented there, and so we made a package, and I could. They also did a spot for me on. But maybe and granted, I'm talking about in relation. It still was a lot of books, like compared to what you were saying, but I think there were under 100 books that were sold. So it's not like you're going to get thousands and thousands of books from being in one of these, but you do pay in many cases thousands and thousands of dollars, to a PR person or to get onto those programs. So it's really balancing your budget as to who's really going to help you.
Yeah. I think, Penny, well, the way we might have to think about that then is less about units sold and more that having that credibility marker makes you more marketable as a speaker, coach, consultant. And then you can increase your fees and maybe broaden your reach, or maybe talk to maybe you get to talk to the executive suite as opposed to the director level. So it's like little markers like that might be what shifts things, but it's not that you need to be on TV all the time. Literally just one time being on TV would be enough to probably elevate the conversation. And I've heard the same thing from other folks who somehow through miracles have managed to get themselves in the Today Show or some other amazing opportunity. And it did elevate them in a lot of ways, but it didn't, like for that time period, like books were not being sold. Like, it's just a funny thing. It's just the certain mediums work better than others. Personally, I happen to really like speaking to a select group of people. I don't care the size, if it's invitation, as opposed to even a podcast. I mean, podcast is more about reach, but as far as like conversion for conversations and maybe even turning into a prospect call, it could be even 20 people on a call for a Zoom, and I'm happy to do it because it's usually a pretty hand-selected group of people. And then, Irma, I'm going to come to you with this next question about how clear of a pipeline is there from the book to the work that you do. So, like, if I'm reading your book and I get excited about it, is there a clear pathway for me to follow to find you and then learn about these other ways you can support me and or my organization?
Oh, absolutely. It all connects together. So the first book, helping the leaders, and then the second book, helping the employees. And then the overall theme is, how can I help your organization so that you're all working together and making great decisions? So yeah, it does all tie together.
And are there lead magnets, QR codes, bonus content? Do you have that kind of thing in the book?
I do have lead magnets because I have forms that they could, they're interactive forms, which makes it so much easier to work through the problems. Mm-hmm. And those are my lead magnets, and I pull in the information from that.
So for those listening who may not be as familiar with this concept, the idea is that you give some sort of bonus content or workbook or something, worksheets, things like that can help someone make best use of the content of the book. But to get that information, they need to give an email address, maybe first name, last name with their email address. And then they're on your subscriber email list. And now you can have a conversation with them over time. So does anyone else have an innovative thing around that? Judi, do you have some resources you included?
I will tell you that some of my best ways of selling books have been just because you end up talking to someone and you don't know that person is somebody. I had somebody in my office on 4th of July weekend. He needed a notary. He said, I don't care what it costs. I just have to have this done. Well, end of story. While we were chatting, he said, he sits on 7 boards and he does this and he does that. And I have a buddy, and he is really desperately trying to get me to come in there and talk to them and help. And he came in with an earring and shorts and, but sometimes you just don't know who you're talking to. So my thing is, I approach them all like they're very important.
I love that.
I do. And I say to them, would you like to see a copy of the book? Would you like a copy of the book? I approach them that as they are very important. And sometimes they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
What's the old expression? It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Well, I like to say it's not who you know or what you know, it's who knows what you know.
Or who knows what you know. That's even
Who
better.
knows what you know? That's
Right,
important.
right. And it is, to me, if I'm in business
It's
for
made a
another
difference.
50 years, to me, I treat them all like they are so important, and I want to know what they do and who they
Yeah.
are. And boy, sometimes
Thank you.
it is a big surprise, and they want to help you.
Thank you. Penny, I'm going to come over to you. I'm curious, as an author, like certain doors open that you could not have foreseen when you were writing a book. And I'm curious, like, you know, how would you finish the sentence? Because I'm an author, this thing became possible. Is there something that really, I mean, you wouldn't have seen it coming, but suddenly maybe certain people are reaching out to you, or you're on certain stages or media, or I don't know, like, what's the thing that stands out to you about this?
That's a good question. I don't, the first thing came to my mind is I get to sign books. People want my signature, right? And that's kind of fun because it makes you feel really important. And maybe more pictures taken, right? Because they want to take it with the book and with you. So what's
this book's kind of on the newer side, and so it may not have happened yet, but I feel like because you have this book, you may be able to knock on certain doors. Like when you were doing your launch team, were
Yes.
there certain people that you reached out to that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily, but the book gave you a reason to?
Yes, I mean, there's reason to be bolder, right? So, I sent a copy to Arnold Schwarzenegger and to people who I thought mindset mattered, and I sent them this special box. Who knows if they even got it? Probably not, but in the effort to do that. So yeah, I think it makes you think differently, and I think that it definitely opened up more speaking opportunities. There's no doubt that people said, I read your book, I'd like to have you come speak, or I want you to be my coach, or any of those types of things. Absolutely part of that process.
Brilliant. Hey, Irma, in a moment, I'm going to come to you with our final wrap-up question. I wanted to ask all of you for advice that you would give someone who's writing a book to help them grow a business. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. All right, Irma, what advice would you give someone who's writing this book in order to kind of increase their visibility, become a speaker, coach, consultant, that kind of thing?
Well, just do it. And don't, I hear so many people say, oh, I want to write a book. Why don't you write it? I don't know what to do. There's so many professionals out there that can help you. I can connect them with people. And it does give you so much credibility. It helps you get on a stage. It helps you get in front of CEOs. I mean, well, depending on what your target audience is. But, don't hesitate. And you know what? If it's a bomb, it's a bomb. But I had my book edited, and I kept sending it to people until they couldn't find anything. So don't worry if it's not perfect. There's other people who can help you. Just do it.
That's right. So it's a combination of get out of your own way and find the right support. And the BizBook Publishing Hub partners are a great place to start. You go to bizbookpublishinghub.com. There's close to 60 experts now who can guide entrepreneurs through writing, editing, publishing, and marketing their business book. Judi, let me come over to you. Same question about advice that you'd give someone writing a book to help them grow their business.
I would say that I agree with Irma, just do it. But I would also say that you need to be very careful. You need to be very detail oriented, but you need to also be very careful. You can't give advice that is so off the wall that if they take it, nobody's ever going to, believe it. So, you have to be careful. You have to be extremely detail oriented. I also think professional editing is critical. I think that if there's a typo in your book, that's a blemish. And people just don't hesitate to say, oh, I thought the book was just wonderful, but can I point out to you that there should have been a hyphen on page 46? And they don't. They actually like it. And And so I think professional editing is important. And I think that your topic has to be something that will help them to grow.
So being really clear about who your audience is, what their challenges are.
Right.
Also, there's a difference between the challenges and problems they know they have and they're willing to admit versus the
Right.
challenges you know they have that they don't know about yet. So we have to make sure we're writing to the challenge or problem that they're aware of, and then we can help bridge them to the bigger challenge.
Here is your problem, and here is how I can help you fix it. Here's your problem. And you didn't even know, but I know that this is your problem. And I have the solution. And if you can get that into a book, you'll sell 10,000 and then some, I think.
Well, speaking of selling 10,000 and then some, let's go over to Penny. Back to you, Penny. So let's hear about your advice.
You know, I don't think that writing a book is for everyone. So I think that, you know, they can get support, and you can, you know, there are people who will help you write the book. If you don't love to write, you can read it out. You can tell someone stories. But, you know, there are other methods to reach your goals too. So I think it's important to understand why you're writing it and, you know, make sure that it's right for you. I think some people, what one should avoid, I'm not a big fan of go for the weekend and you'll have a book at the end of the weekend. I think there's a lot of promises that this is easy. The reason I say it's not for everyone and that it was a labor of love is it's a lot of hard work to make something simple, digestible, in a way that people want to keep reading. Do you know, I don't know what the percentage is, maybe you know, Robbie, but I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how such a large percentage of people stop in the middle of a book because they lose momentum, especially today, right? With we have less attention span than the goldfish. So, you know, it's got to be something that's engaging and keeps people moving through, because I think we want to make a difference. And so we want to also make sure that they get through to the end.
Yeah, and speaking of which, this is another reason to put whatever your bonus content or lead magnets are at the beginning and end of a book and throughout as it sort of fits, and don't just have a page at the very end, because, you know, only a small percentage gets to that last page, so they may not see it. So let me actually come to you, Penny. How can people find you and follow your work?
Sure, they can go to theresetmindset.net. That's the book page, and they can reach me from there. And of course, they can link up with me on LinkedIn or Instagram or any of those platforms that I'm on.
Fantastic. We're going to have all the links in the show notes at bizbookpublishinghub.com. We'll include your book links, social links, website, etc. Judi, how about you? Where can people find you and follow you?
Judi at Lawrence Institute for Notaries is the name of my company, but also LinkedIn, Instagram, you know, I'm all over the place. And I wanted to answer your question, Robbie, when you asked, what did writing a book do for you that's different? Well, I wouldn't be sitting here.
That's true.
I wanted to get that in.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
It's
glad you are.
really been a pleasure.
And Irma, how about you? Where can people find you and follow your work?
Paronegroup.com will give you everything that even leads you to my speaking website. And then LinkedIn is my most social proof area. I mean, that's where I spend most of my time, although I am on the other social media platforms.
Fantastic. I'm going to put all these links in the show notes at bizbookpublishinghub.com, where you'll also find nearly 60 experts ready to help you become a successful author, invitations to attend free virtual networking events for writers and authors, all of these show notes, the Kindle cross-promotion campaigns that run throughout the year, and so much more. I keep adding more and more to that page. So check it out there. And thank you, panel, for joining us for this conversation. It's been one.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Thanks, Robbie.
Great to be here.